Okay. Calling the meeting to order. City of Laredo, special council meeting, Alente and Houston Street, Thursday, April 16, 2026, 12 p.m. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Honorable Mayor Dr. Victor D. Trevino,
Present.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member District 1, Gilbert Gonzalez. Honorable Council Member District 2, Ricardo Richie Rangel Jr. Honorable Council Member District 3, Melissa Cigarroa.
Present.
Honorable Council Member District 4, Ricardo Rick Garza.
I'm here.
Honorable Council Member District 5, Ruben Gutierrez Jr.
Present.
Honorable Council Member District 6, Dr. Tyler King.
Present.
Honorable Council Member District 7, Vanessa Perez. Honorable Council Member District 8, Alisa Cigarroa.
Oh, present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll proceed with communications. Number one, Mayor's presentation. Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for being here today. To those watching at home, thank you for your continued interest in the local government and our special called meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few announcements. As mentioned, we're launching the Mayoral Neighborhood Challenge along with our Walks with the Mayor initiative. These efforts are designed to promote health, wellness, and community engagement across the city. You can find more information at the City of Laredo and Laredo Health Facebook pages. We had great attendance on our last walk at Mall del Norte, and I encourage everyone to join us next week at the Chacon Bat Park, located at 1104 South Meadow, on April the 21st from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. There will also be a bridge, the distance 5K this Sunday, April the 19th at Tres Laredos Park, starting at 8 a.m. Whether you choose to run or walk, I encourage everyone to come out and enjoy this beautiful riverfront event. Additionally, during the National Police Week, May the 10th to May the 16th, the Laredo Police Department will host a Back to Blue 5K on May the 9th, and more information will be presented at April 20th City Council meeting. Treasury notice. I also want to address the recent press release from the U.S. Department of Treasury regarding sanctions on cartel-linked businesses and key associates along the U.S.-Mexico border. The City of Laredo was formally notified. As a border community, we understand that criminal activities such as human trafficking and narcotics trafficking can sometimes operate what appears to be legitimate businesses and stash houses. We can't be naive to this, and it is something we need to take seriously. I want to assure the public that the City of Laredo and our police department are working closely with our federal partners, including the DEA and the U.S. Department of Treasury, to ensure our community remains safe. Laredo continues to be one of the safest cities because we work collaboratively and proactively to protect our residents. At this time, how many general citizen comments do we have?
Mayor, we have 8 citizens that signed up for public comment.
All right. Are there on items or general?
Mayor, we have two that signed up for public comment, and the rest are on item number one of the agenda.
All right. If there's two general, we'll proceed with them, and any other further comments that are agenda related, we can take them up with the corresponding agenda item. So we'll start with the two general citizens' comments. Okay. Let's see.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
the two citizens that signed up for public comment, Victor Trevino and Jesse Herrera.
Okay. We'll start with Jesse Herrera.
Some call me a poet, some call me the dude, but I've always been Jesse G. Herrera. Anything you might have heard about me is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the guilty. They took our feathers, they took our buffalo, they took our water, they took our land, they took and took and took. They took in the name of the Father and the Son. They took in the name of the U.S. Constitution. They took in the name of Manifest Destiny and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and now national security. So they say, as the whole world's ablaze, gracias to that presidential thing in Washington, D.C., who believes he's Jesus Christ, but not his brother's keeper. How can such a progressive community be so regressive? That's one step for humanity and one leap into stupidity. While some have had enough doublespeak, others stand in the rain, mouths wide open, until they drown, obedient to Big Brother to the very end, with their hands held out for federal funds. Yet haven't you learned? Big Brother keepeth, and Big Brother taketh. They took our feathers, they took our buffalo, they took our water, they took our land. No border wall. They take and take and take. Big Brother always taketh. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stepping on a human face. Forever, George Orwell. Big Brother always taketh. Gracias.
Thank you. All right. Any other general comment?
Yes. Mayor, Victor Trevino.
All right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, staff. My name, for the record, Victor Trevino Jr. I stand here today to commend this council for encouraging thoughtful discussion on this very sensitive issue, because through thoughtful discussion, we have this great discourse of what we call this great experiment, which is democracy. And through participation, we move our community forward. As I prepare to take my trip later on today to the 130th Boston Marathon, I am a proud son of Laredo, and I'm proud to represent our community which was founded on binational values. But that doesn't mean that we don't have our issues and we can discuss them amongst each other. And it is with the same pride that I stand before you, celebrating our 271st anniversary of the founding of our city, which is an incredible thing because it predates our country. And so we have a lot of experience to share and a lot of great things. And I think this is what we should highlight. And instead of basically focusing on just division, we should basically focus on unity and respect each other's opinions and viewpoints, because in the end, we all live here. We all have to see each other. We all have family here. And at the end of the day, we all Laredoans at the end of the day. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we have now executive session, but Mr. Neb, would you like to do your presentation first?
Yes, sir, Mayor. The presentation, happy to do that first. If you'd like to take the communication on the item prior to the presentation, would be okay as well, too. Because I think you do have some public comments on the individual items.
Mayor, motion to bring up item number 1.
All right, motion,
I'll second that.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 1. Discussion with possible action regarding border wall developments, including federal and state coordination, local impacts, infrastructure considerations, and the City of Laredo strategic response, and any matters related thereto. I know we have had some discussions with Homeland Security and Border Patrol, and there have been some movement on some of the concerns that were brought up by the city. And as mentioned, the city has brought up design proposals that are being reviewed. We have also been in contact with the Laredo College, was also employing the same directive in negotiating and dialogue as their initial step. That's item number 1.
Mayor, can we hear the, before the presentation, can we hear citizen comments prior to?
All right. We have,
Mayor, we have 6 comments on item number 1.
Correct.
all right. We'll go with Maxine Reveles, public comment on the item.
Hi, so my name is Maxine Taveles for the record. I wish he would have done the presentation first, that way we could know, like, if we're saying stuff that would have been answered there, but I digress. I don't know what he's gonna say, so just right now, I know some of our city council members aren't here because they're in DC talking about the border wall issue from my understanding. So I don't know why we're having this meeting here when they could be focusing on that. How many times are we gonna waste money to find the same results? Like, we have a geomorphologist that gave us results already. They did a study. So I don't understand why we keep spending money, even LC spending money, like, they're gonna get the same results, so I'm not sure. And in your words, Mayor Trevino, we can't be naive to this. Like, I worked for the government. I was in the Navy for 6 years. You know, we were looking for weapons of mass destruction for how many years, and we never found any. They will lie straight to your face, and you will have to deal with the consequences. I deal with the trauma of my actions every single day for following their orders, you know, and you think you don't have a choice. I thought I didn't have a choice, and I see now with everything going on that we did have a choice, and military members right now still have a choice, but some of them don't feel it. So I don't see how we can say that we're having thoughtful discussion when it becomes thoughtless with all the money that we're wasting. All these discussions leading to the same point is wasteful, in my opinion. And we're just dragging this out. If y'all want to keep kicking the can down the road, but don't, like you just mentioned, you're going to have 2 events, one in Chacombat Park, which I was down there and I've seen the destruction that they've already made with that. Like, can you imagine, like, if they get their wall and their buoys in there, how many events are people going to want to go to there? And right now, like at Tres Laredos Park, you know, we can enjoy the Rio now, but what are y'all trying to build there? You know, so you keep trying to give us all these good things, but at the same time, you're trying to destroy it and allowing people to even get a foot in the door to destroy it. So I'm asking you, like to stop. Like, I'm asking y'all to stand with the community that's saying we don't need a border wall. Like, it's gonna destroy our environment. This is unprecedented, and the government won't care. They don't care. They've shown us how many times they will break the law while we're forced to follow it. Like, and I don't know how much more I could say to get y'all to open your eyes, because they are gonna lie to us. We're never gonna be them. They're never gonna accept us. They're gonna use us for what they want. And once we follow it and turn our backs on our family, San Antonio's not gonna want us. Houston's not gonna want us. If we destroy our only source of water, who is gonna take us? And y'all don't see that. Those people in Nuevo Laredo that were risking their lives also, they're definitely not gonna want them. They're already showing us, you know, and you can have as many bridge ceremonies as you want, but your actions are so much louder than your words.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Councilman.
we have 5 public comments that are left. Would you all rather hear the presentation prior to you all speaking, as Ms. Reveles was asking? Yes? Yes? Mayor, can we have that then? We'll have the presentation
Right,
before
and a
the
motion?
comments continue.
Yes, a motion?
That's
Second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Mr. Neb?
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
All right, Mayor, City Council, thank you for the opportunity. We're going to do a little bit of a history lesson for what we've been working on since November of 2025. Walking all the way through that, I hope to tackle a couple of the current events and where we're at in the processes as well too, and explain some of our positioning within the conversations that we are having that as it relates to our strategy as to how we are negotiating and how we are working through this difficult situation. So right now, we will do an update on the federal coordination. I also want to get into the city approach of the evaluation and the engagement, and then some of the next steps for data review and policies. I think I do want to state that we hear everyone's position on this matter. It doesn't matter which side of the equation that they are on. We try to incorporate every one of those voices into our conversations as we move forward. And you'll see a little bit in this presentation as well too. We keep walking through this thing with the sensitivity and the desire to get positive resolution out of the situation. Really quickly, just walking all the way back, these are the expected Border Patrol standards. It's just a picture of the standardized border wall, 28 to 30 foot high, as well as what the type of buoys are that they are putting into the river down in the Rio Grande Valley, and what we anticipate we'll see. You will notice that this style of buoy is different than the style that the state used up in Eagle Pass. So as we walk through these things, I just wanted to make sure that we started with that understanding what their standardized process is as to where they're moving from or going to. This is a smart wall overlay. So if you go on to the Border Patrol's website and everything, you will find a map that shows this yellow line that runs along the Rio Grande River as to what their general location they want to put the smart wall. The smart wall, of course, is a physical barrier plus technology plus the manpower that is utilized in order to secure the border. This actual map, because we are awaiting an updated map from Border Patrol, which they stated that they would get for us. This is the map from 2017, 2018, but it hasn't changed a lot. And I think those are the things that we see, but we need to wait until we get the actual document in order to be able to overlay and say these are the adjustments that have happened from 2017 to today in 2026. So I utilize this one as a good example, though, to see that if you look at the red section that is up on the north end of the map, that is about 220 foot wide path. If you look down right there across from Father McNaboe, it is less than 220 foot. And I believe this is something that we wanted to make sure that we acknowledge within that, because this goes into the conversation with Big Bend and everything else. The Border Patrol is trying to make those adjustments within the conversation for what they need in order to do their security of the border. So it will not always be this full 220, 250 foot swath with roads on either side with the barrier wall in the middle. And we believe that that is our opportunity, that they are making adjustments within their model on a regular basis as well too. That's why we believe that our conversations have went as well as they have, that there are alternative possibilities within this whole conversation. And this is why we continue to sit at the table with them and try to discuss how border security should look for the city of Laredo. Wanted to look at this. I wanted to share this map. This is the general alignment of areas that they are looking at. This is the River Bend area, and this is again the old map, but the map that Mr. Chavez and I have seen with the Border Patrol and with their consultants. It follows a very similar format. The difference is that, and this is what I'm trying to draw out into this conversation with this slide as well too. If you look at the River Bend area, they have actually two areas that they are looking at that they're needing support on within that structure. The one that's on the farthest south, the one that is closest to the river, is actually not a purchase of that land. It is for an easement for a road which is already there existing that is going along the river. So when we talk about I would say that the area that is up further or closer to the housing, that is where they want to put a physical barrier along that River Bend area. The area down on the south is for a road infrastructure, and if you look underneath the colors in there, there is a road already existing there that they are already utilizing.
Mayor, I apologize. My deep apologies for the interruption. We cannot see any of the maps through Zoom.
Is there a possibility to have the maps seen through that? I'm asking IT or anybody else. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember, you have them now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, and I did receive, Mayor, if I could, I did receive a text from Councilmember King. He wants to make sure that he is able to be heard and is present? Okay, all right. Councilmember King, we have you recognized.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And so this is the older map, but this is exactly what they were looking at as well too. And our conversations with them is understanding exactly what they are wanting to look at and why they are wanting to look at these.
Mr. Knapp,
So let me back up. Yes.
sorry to
yeah,
interrupt
yes.
you. I just want to acknowledge that Councilmember Rangel is here just in time for the presentation.
Thank you.
Noted, thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Mayor, I wanted to walk back just really briefly on this as well too, because we have been active. We've been up to DC at least twice now. Once in January to talk with Commissioner Scott with the Border Patrol, and again in March as our delegation went up there. Back in December, we established our evaluation framework, which stated from the city's perspective that we will negotiate and we will find a solution that works in partnership together for border security, and as long as they're willing to talk with us about alternatives and about different models in order to get there, we're happy to do that. We did the community polling and surveying, which helps set that tone of exactly, it meets up with our framework exactly where we want to go. Nobody wants a physical structure. A majority of the people don't want a physical structure. Nobody really wants to pay for it either. And so I think those are those definitive things that we have to walk through there. We are coordinating with the Border Patrol on a regular basis, Bowman Consulting, and of course we hired our legal firm, Jackson Walker, who is actually walking through all the mechanics of this. And I will say at this point in time, and a little bit later I'll talk a little bit more about it, but the request for hiring another geomorphologist was presented to Jackson Walker as well too. They are looking into that consideration. There are some things, and I will share those a little bit later in this report, that are very challenging within that structure. And I've shared it with emails with the council as well too. But we'll walk through those things. And we are doing an initial technical review and the right of entry structure. And one of the things that I will share with everybody is that right now, of course, the documents that everybody that's living along the river or the city, in the case because of our 5 parks and our 3 utility plants and our other rec paths areas, the right of entry that they are requesting is an ROEC, which is the most expansive right of entry for that. They also have layers of right of entry. And so the conversation we will have on Monday as well too is that we are talking about splitting that up a little bit farther, and I'll explain exactly why, but the right of entry
Yes, go
for a
ahead.
boundary survey
Sir,
makes.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
what's an ROC, can you explain, like? just
All right,
break it down?
so within the federal governmental system, they utilize 3 different classifications, and that, they're not just locked onto those classifications, but there's an ROE, which is right of entry A, there's a right of entry B, and there's a right of entry C. Right of entry C allows it allows everything from a boundary survey all the way up to a finalization of the construction. And so it's a very wide open system within that to get to the ROEC. They have different levels of the right of entry because depending on what their needs are, depending on what they're looking at, they will take a smaller version of that. What we are working with Jackson Walker with the consultant is allowing within some of our less sensitive areas, and I'll explain that again as we walk through this, but that there are areas that they are only seeking additional easements for different reasons. And so we are walking through all of that data and that information to determine what type of an ROE would we allow if we were to allow any right of entry of that as nature. There's nuances within that structure. I think that's the thing that you need to understand. From an ROE-A to an ROE-C, there are all these different nuances. And our conversation with the Border Patrol and our conversation with the consultants is that they're comfortable with our conversations about understanding the sensitivity of certain areas that we have as well too. All right, the current phase right now, and this is where we are alluding to it a little bit here in this conversation, we are trying to transition from this 50,000 foot level down to a project specific analysis where you're trying to get down to very detailed. We're walking through each one of these parcels individually and saying, what does this parcel mean and how does this affect this relationship and this conversation as to how we go with that. We have a number of parcels that are out there because the old city system is laid out as parcels, even though it's not all together there. We serve it as one piece, but there's multiple parcels. Our conversation with Mr. Chavez and I, as we sat down with their engineers as well too, is that some of the definitions or some of the parcel information is out of whack with exactly what they're asking for. And so these conversations have been really good about narrowing that focus and saying, what exactly are you trying to accomplish with this? We are awaiting alignments, proper alignments. We are awaiting hydraulic modeling and design schematics based upon the first conversation we had. I think once the Riverfront Committee had brought forward the recommendation to have a conversation where they had talked about the Tompkins report. That request came from that. And we went and asked the Border Patrol for any of their design specs, any of their information as to what they're building. I showed you the standardized versions. We're asking for that as we walk through this, and they have agreed that they will provide any of that data that they are allowed and capable to do. So they are willing to provide that data. Just know that, and this will be part of the conversation, I'll drive it home a little bit farther in the conversation here. Some of this data will not be available until they can get on the property to do actual geotechnical borings and actual down, because they don't know how deep the footings have to be for a wall structure. They don't have to know that. And all of that information will be important as we move forward into what type of flood study, what type of analysis we need to do on that thing. The evaluation depends on that data. And so that is where we're kind of at. Somebody mentioned about it being the chicken and the egg, and it's like there's some truth to that analogy as to what that is. And that's where we're walking through this on a project-specific analysis. So we're narrowing down that 50,000 foot level. We're bringing it all down to a parcel-by-parcel conversation. When we talked to the Border Patrol about providing us with the design specs and everything, this is also what they've agreed to. We are asking for them to give it to us in a definitive process because again, we want to make sure that we lay out some letter from one of the officials out there saying, these are what we're going to build to, because this actually helps us when we start trying to study what flood impact is on any of our infrastructure. But they are intending to build this infrastructure to the 100-year base flood elevation evaluation. That is where the base flood elevation is today within FEMA's guidelines. I want to make sure you understand that as well too, because what we had a conversation on with the Tompkins report as well too, the FEMA information it goes all the way back. The last time we had the fully updated map for FEMA for our flooding was 2008. And some of that data goes back to 2003. We are in the year 2026. So there is something to be said about updating this information as to what the impact on the flooding in our area is and where we want to go. By the way, Mayor, this is something that we talked about early on in December, that flooding was one of our key things. If we can improve our city and eliminate some of the flooding, that is one of the biggest things that we thought we could work with on the dual purpose. The second thing is that there is a requirement in the IBWC and the treaty between Mexico and the U.S. that there can be no more than 5% diversion of the water. So any infrastructure that they put into it has to be designed so that it does not deflect any more than 5% of the river based upon the 100-year base flood elevations. And so that they are building to this. These are actually two requirements that they were not able to waive within their structure. These are the ones that we recognized early on that will stay strong all the way through there because they don't have the ability within the nature of the federal rules and guidelines to waive these pieces. And so this is where we've been there. Border Patrol, again, very good conversations with the Border Patrol. They have committed to providing that data as we go through that. The nice thing is that we do know what our base flood elevation is. We utilize it all every day. Anytime we construct a building within the city or construct a road, we utilize that information. We also can do the deflection because that is a known fact as well too for that. Once the Border Patrol does get that information done, we are recommending an independent review or audit of that data just to confirm that they've utilized the correct analysis as to what that is. So this is where, when we talk about where the Riverfront Committee has talked about the wanting a larger study, wanting to get certain other professionals online, we should commit to at least an independent. We want to confirm. Trust but verify is the intent for what we're trying to do with that one. Our recommendation on the city side is to do a lot larger flood study, but I will give you the challenges that we'll have with that one as well too. So our right of entry position on this right now, right of entry is not project approval. I know in some people's minds it's like giving up ground that we shouldn't give up. Right of entry doesn't do that. Our intent in working with the federal government again is to find a solution and an alternative solution that works for the city as well as what their needs are. Our concern, and we've talked about this in the past as well too, if we are not at the table with them, that is not going to prevent them from doing their work. They will just take a different path in order to get there. And that's where we want to make sure that we can stay at that table because our voices are being heard. The right of entry is not project approval. It allows for the surveying, geotechnical work, and data collection. Some of this design information that we are asking for, we will not have, and the Border Patrol will not have until they can do a full engineering design process. And so that'll be the nature of that. I would argue to a certain point, at least on our side, I think we can get the buoy data easier because it does not take any other nature. Once they get that engineering done, they'll provide that data. But if they can't get on the properties to get the geotechnical work done, they can't finish the design. We can't finish an analysis in order to determine what if any negative impact is on this. So we do support limited controlled access on certain port parcels and certain reasons, exactly for what the reasons why I'm stating it to you. There are certain areas that are be easement driven. There are certain areas that are actually for purchase, but we do have sensitive areas that we want to help protect and have a longer conversation prior to allowing any of that work to happen. Right of entry, why does it matter? Again, I've driven this home, I think, enough right now. The Border Patrol has agreed to provide the data. Engineering requires borings and surveys of the property in order to determine if the alignment's good, if it matches up to everything. Does the terrain have anything to do with it? Does the soil types have anything to do with it? It all has a lot to do with this. Without the access, any analysis, whether it be from the federal side or the city side, will be incomplete, and it will not be accurate enough in order to legally defend us within any structure. And so the data and the access are directly linked within that. That's why the conversation, that's why we are having a conversation on the right of entry within that nature of that. I wanted to share this with you because I don't think anybody has gotten to see any of this yet other than maybe the council. In our last conversation with the Border Patrol, we shared the alternatives. And if you notice, we were a little creative in what we would contemplate as being potential barriers along the river in order to help meet the conditions of both sides of this thing. I want to tell you, when we shared this with the Border Patrol, I did not get a hell no. I did not get a no. They said, let us consider that, because the picture at the bottom right is, of course, that's that berm type structure and everything. And so they had a version of that they shared with us back in November. And all we're trying to do is we're trying to find out exactly what they want to do. The Max Mandel on the left side at the bottom there again, just like with Father McNamara on the map, they've actually pulled their line back. It is not crossing any of the holes that we have out there. It is actually staying off the fairway, which is a nice thing to do. Now we're asking, what about some type of feature that will be aesthetically proper and could actually look a little bit better? We understand the need for control and everything. I thought the picture at the right, at the top there, just because we've had past conversations about fishing on the river as well too. What about installation of fishing piers along with this wrought iron type fence in order to make it aesthetically pleasing? Again, I did not get the word no from them. I got, let us consider the alternative. Let us consider how that.
Yes, go ahead.
Quick question, is it, I know that there's some kind of, I don't know what law it is, that we can't go into the river. I don't know if, I'm sorry.
As far as the structure itself?
The structure, that we can't go into the river of, halfway, or how far can we go into the river?
I'm not aware of any legislation I'm not aware of any legislation like that, but what I will say that the river is considered international waters. So in order for the government to have to build something, it would have to be on something that is American territory.
And I would say more than likely what you're talking about, it is a controlled river through the IBWC because it is a border as well as that. And I think that if we were to make any type of a structure to this level, it would take coordination and approval from the IBWC in order to get this done. Yeah. All right. So the agenda status. On Monday, we do have the agenda item. We had it on the last council meeting. We're moving it forward to this council meeting. We are still awaiting some information and data. So I don't know if we're not going to request a tabling of the item again, because until we have certain information, we can't make a full determination in order to provide you with a recommendation. We are working every day on this information, but it is scheduled on the council meeting. If we're not able to get to that item, if the information, I almost guarantee you, we'll probably have that information available by May. We're waiting on that updated map is really what we're waiting on, because we want to know those locations. I think the alternative structures will be an ongoing conversation, and the design specifications will be an ongoing conversation. So we're not holding back on the right of entry request or the recommendation. We're waiting for that map so that we can understand which parcels are actually being affected. And so that's where we're trying to bring that up with that. And so we are coordinating on a daily basis, either through Jackson Walker with Bowman Consulting or through Border Patrol. We have a lot of different conversations going on a regular basis. Really quickly on the evaluation of the current studies, I appreciate what Dr. Tompkins put together within his report. The challenge is, and he states it within that report, it is based upon a lot of assumptions because the data is not available, the design data and everything. So that is one version of what could happen if everything was to go a certain way. It lacks project specificity and the data for that. I only say that because I think that is the reason why there's an additional request going, let's do a larger study on this, but it is all commiserate. It has to have data before we can do a better study or another study as well too. Additional studies will still face the same limits. I would state that right now I think the request from the Riverfront Committee was to hire a geomorphologist in order to do a study. Just so you know, they study rivers. They are not a hydraulic engineer. Some do both duties and everything. I think Dr. Tompkins actually serves in both fields. What we need in order to determine flood impact is a hydraulic engineer. That's all I'm saying is that I think it's nice to understand how the river moves because we have a sedimentation river that it moves all the time. That's why we have islands. That's why we have buildup of sedimentation. And that's why I think the concern of anything put into that river will actually cause the sediment to build differently within that. So I just wanted to make sure we walked through Dr. Tompkins' report. We shared it with other geomorphologists. We shared it with other engineering firms as well too, in order to determine that. Because it doesn't have the specificity within that document, we can't come to the same conclusions that have been done before. But that doesn't mean that the data is not valid data. And I just want to make sure I share with that. We need project-specific design, we need hydraulic modeling, we need evaluation against standards. We need some kind of base factor in order to go against. We can't determine that impact without this data. And we have requested that data. Mayor and City Council, we've requested that data. We are just waiting for what they can provide us, and then we'll find out if it is actually substantial enough to actually initiate any type of a study of what's happening. I wanted to go in a little bit though, because we're talking about what the future is going to have. And I want to talk a little bit about where we're currently at, because in 2010 we flooded. 2010 there was a tractor trailer that was in the river that we were very worried about actually hitting up against one of our bridges and everything. We already currently have 300 structures within the floodplain. And so if we go back to 2010, I would argue that the city did not finish their work from 2010 forward, because within the floodplain, within the flood zone, and the floodway and the flood zone, there are two different areas, and I'll show you a map of that as well too. But we have some structures, and we have a lot of loose trailers, vehicles and everything parked in the floodway currently. We have over 300 structures within that area and the flood zone area already. So when we talk about the potential of flooding, we have a lot of people already in the way of flooding today. And I want to make sure that you understand that, because the floodplain itself is actually wider than the proposed alignment of just the smart wall. This is a larger issue than just buoys and border wall. And all of this existing stuff actually represents a risk today. Really quickly, just a picture of the 2010 flood. We walked through this conversation. Over on the left and off the picture, this is El Portal, but if you on the left side of the picture off of that is, of course, the outlet mall. That water goes all the way up to where the pedestrian bridge between the buildings go. That's the flood area of what we're talking about in the downtown area. This is off the FEMA website, and this is a portion of Laredo up a little bit farther north. The red striped area is actually in the floodway. The blue area right next to that is AE flood zone, and then the area next to it, so essentially the blue area is the 1%, the 100-year flood. The brown area right next to it is the 500-year flood, and each one of them has a piece of that. If you look through the colors, you can see all this infrastructure and all the structures that are currently within those areas that are in danger of flooding anytime this river hits those levels. I brought it down a little bit farther because I wanted to draw attention and draw to it because of what happened in 2010 with the tractor trailer carrier that was in there. If you look at all these structures just right underneath the 406, all of those are loose trailers within the floodway itself. We really need to be looking at this as a larger thing than just our current issue, and I believe that there is something to be said for that. And so I just wanted to draw your attention to it, that it's not like we weren't aware that we have the possibility of flooding because we are along the Rio Grande River. Our city approach moving forward, I'm right toward the end of what I wanted to make sure I covered today, Mayor, and I can answer any questions. But we will be recommending some level of access to obtain the data that we need in order to make a determination as to whether or not whatever they're going to build will have a negative impact on our city. We believe that we're going to have to get to that level for that conversation. We are awaiting the federal modeling, because if they can do that modeling, then we can at least go back and analyze within it, do an independent audit, and say yes or no that whether or not the modeling is correct. Conducting an independent review, always we will hire a professional in order to get that work done. But our recommendation to you, and we'll bring this forward in the near future, is to initiate a broader floodplain study, because the data that we are utilizing on the river is from 2008, and the city has grown significantly since then. We want to use the best data possible. And so what the city study will provide, understanding of current flood risk. The data that we put together, because we already have over 300 structures within there, the data that we put together will help us for future conversations. It will, because we will now have that baseline in order to get there. We will have the evaluation of existing conditions within that study, and it supports our long-term planning and our CIP. And in my mind, I think I'd said it to somebody once before, it's completing the work that we started back in 2010. Because we started very heavily on there. I think that at one point in time we were talking with FEMA about removing 60 homes out of the FEMA off of Chacon Creek, and removing them out of there because we couldn't find a solution that would eliminate the flooding for that area. It was better to remove the individuals out of that. And that's why FEMA is very important to us within this conversation. What the city study does not do, and this is the thing that I need to make sure that everybody understands, any study we do will not stop or delay the federal government from completing their project of border security. I think that's the thing that we have to be very cognizant of that, and that's why we continue to negotiate. It does not replace the CBP analysis. If we update our FEMA maps, it's a 2 to 4 year cycle in order to get them adopted, that the federal government will actually recognize our maps in order to get there. So I want to make sure that you understand that there is no silver bullet here. The studies are good because it's going to help protect our community. There's no way that it helps us do what some would hope that this data would do. It does not impact near-term timelines. I think I announced at one of the last council meetings as well too. If I didn't, I'll say it again as well too. In one of our last conversations with Chief De Leon, as well as some of the other individuals, their timeline is to complete this project by 2028. And so if you back off of that date there and you come backwards to 2026, This is why there's a sense of urgency within the federal government. This is why we're very careful about how we walk through those conversations. They are on, I hate using the word fast track. They're going to move fairly quickly within that. World Trade Bridge expansion is actually supposed to complete in July of 28. And so that's why we're having the conversations on the bridges as well too. Any study that we do will not change that. What we do know is that the Border Patrol is going to build to the 100-year base flood elevation, which is, we already know what it is currently. We actually just believe the data is bad. We believe it's too old. I shouldn't say it's bad. We may find that it's just right on track with it, but we haven't done that analysis yet. On top of that, and we actually believe that they will abide by the IBWC treaty requirements because they are, both countries are required to do that, and they will do less than 5% diversion. Their data will show that. Our job will be to confirm whether or not their data is accurate or not. So the floodplain study, FEMA maps are 15 to 20 years old. We want to explore the FEMA risk map coordination. What I'm saying there is that we are not on FEMA's plan right now in order to update our mapping. And this larger flood study is about $1 million, plus or minus, depending on where you go with this, in order to analyze. And it actually goes up even higher as you spread out. So about $1 million fits us about 20 miles along the river. All of Laredo is 41 miles. And so if you go even upstream or downstream a little bit farther than that, that increases it out. There's 100 miles in Webb County. I would actually recommend working with Webb County and maybe having a shared expense within a better flood study for the entire county, utilizing the city as well too. We have to plan out this comprehensive study because we want to be on FEMA's list, because if we are on FEMA's list for a study, we can be reimbursed back this money. If we start the study on our own, we will not be reimbursed any money that we put into the study. And so that's the balancing act on that. The independent review, I know I don't have it in here. We are estimating that anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 for an independent audit, but it's going to be based upon data, and so we have to wait for that data in order to do it to that level. The FEMA maps, this is our bigger recommendation because we already have flooding concerns. We already have things that are happening. We believe this is the better way to go. In the cost and reality, we have just a layout there for you, and I've talked about all of this. Any study we go out there, if we were to do just a study on the buoys and the barrier walls, and we were able to get the data that we needed in order to make a good study, it's a 9 to 18 month anyway. We're going to run toward the end of the year before that, and I think this is why Jackson Walker says, let's focus on the things that are right in front of us, and let's continue preparing for the future stuff as well too. But let's focus on what's happening right now today, because the clock is ticking very quickly. But this study will run $500 to $1 million, depending on what that severity, how big that needs to be. If you look on our flood maps, our FEMA maps, anything up along Secata Creek as it goes into the city, and Chacon Creek as it goes up into the city, we have flooding up in that area as well too. I think it was talked about a little bit when they talked about the Tompkins study. As that river flows up, it goes to the lowest area and it balances out, and it finds that balance. And so we need to study all those connecting pieces within that structure. And so the difference is that even if it floods off the river, then the river has a tendency to flood as these confluences of these creeks go into the river. Mayor, City Council, that's my report as far as an update and where we're going. There is no action that I'm asking for on the right of entry. I just wanted to make sure, because we didn't get an opportunity because we tabled it at the last meeting. I wanted everybody to hear exactly what we're looking at with the right of entry process, and what the request is from the federal government, and what we are thinking and looking at as we're moving forward. So,
all right. Any questions from me?
Yeah, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple of questions. Mr. Neb, is it possible, or can we look into partnering up with the county? You mentioned that earlier. I know that they're I recently found out that they have a water treatment plant in Rio Bravo that's probably gonna get affected by this also. So I would think that in partnering them with them, and LC is also being approached right now. And then the reason why I want us to partner up with them was also so that we can have one voice in all of this. I think I don't know where they're at, that might affect us, and they might not know where we're at, that might affect them. And so I'm wondering if we can bring everybody to the table and get something like that going, just so that we can, I don't wanna find out next year that because we could have done that, some of the things could have been avoided. And just because we didn't communicate with them. So I'm wondering if we can bring those people to the table and really have a good conversation about, what you just mentioned right now.
No, and I think we can incorporate all of those conversations and making sure that they get there. I know, and I know Laredo College, I think there was an article out there on Laredo College, and we had conversations with them as well too. They have some of their concerns are different than ours, but we can match up to those kind of conversations because we're all talking to the same people. I mean, the nice thing is on the Border Patrol side is that what we are learning is that there's 3 or 4 individuals that we can talk to that are responsible for the entire Laredo sector on their side.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, because I know that they are talking to them, and I just wanted to make sure that we both, I mean, all of us have the same language and we're talking the same processes and procedures to go through this smoothly as possible, that we're not lacking any information from either party so that we can move forward. The second one was in bringing the ad hoc committee. I'm not sure where we stand with them. And this information did you just give us, you already gave to them?
I provided them an update on the letter as to what I was going to cover with you as well too. And the challenge is that I truly believe because we have more concerns than just the buoys and the border wall because of the 300 structures we already have in our flood zone as well too. I actually believe that I would rather have that committee focused on our areas, our more sensitive areas, and focusing on that rather than to worry about this. Because again, if we hire professionals, if we hire the study, we're talking 6 to 8 months before that study is even done. I would expect that ad hoc committee will be 8 months down the line. I would like them focused on the question that came out of our framework. What does success look like in working between the city of Laredo and the Border Patrol? What does border security look like for that matter? And I think the expansion of what we're doing with the committee as well too is not an issue. I mean, because the river it does impact our structures as well too, because that's where our intakes are at. And so, but I don't want them to spend a lot of time on the building a litigation situation. I want them to look at what does that success look like, and that matches up closer to our framework. And so, you know, the danger we have is that we've got a lot of great people on that committee that are looking at it. We have people that have wall on their property, as well as ones that are totally against having a wall on their property. And I think it's a really good mix to have that conversation. And I think that's the strength of that committee as well too. But so yeah, I provided them an update with where this was at. I shared, and I've shared, you know, now I've publicly shared as well too. My only concern with the Tompkins report is that it is based upon assumptions, not actual data, because they could not get the data in order to make a full assumption. And so that's why I want to be careful about the use of those studies within our strategy and everything, because again, if we're in front of a judge or a jury or anything else like that, we want stuff that's going to fully protect us within that structure.
Yeah, so and the reason is obviously that I want to be in lockstep with everybody from this point on. I know that this data or this information, which is a great presentation right now, I just want to make sure that everybody is involved, that can be involved, that we're in lockstep with them, and that we're all speaking the same language. Obviously, there's strength in numbers, so the more people we get involved in this process, I think the better.
Yeah, would that require like an agreement or something written or some kind of?
You know, I think that to a certain level, because the challenge we're gonna have a little bit, and we talked about this way back in December as well too, is that the Border Patrol is going to negotiate with every property owner along there. The difference for us is that we're a governmental entity within that structure. And so we can speak for a larger body of people. We can't get into the specific property rights of an individual as well too, because like I said, some are okay with the wall, some are not okay with the wall, and we don't want to get into that. But where we can kind of match up, yes, Mayor, I believe that some type of an agreement kind of helps, and I think that's where what we learned from Laredo College is that some of their challenges are so different than our challenges as to what we're concerned with, what we're trying to match up. We do have similarities within that structure. You mentioned Rio Bravo, anytime we have a treatment plant up there, and I didn't talk about it on here as much, but some of the areas where the smart wall goes across our treatment plants, it blocks us off from an easy expansion of the plant. And so is there the opportunity that we can kind of move whatever the security line is different from having it right up next to others? And this is where the conversation actually with the alternatives actually plays in as well too, is that they have, and it's all along where there is wall, the use of gates and the ability to access on both sides of that fence as well too. And so all those conversations can happen with that. But Mayor, I would think that anytime we can do at least that balance within there, I think the big thing is making sure that everybody understands where we can match up with them and where we can't. And I think that'll be within the document itself, I would think. But
Right.
but I think we should.
Just go ahead.
Sir, on cause and timeline reality, it's just the estimate of 500K and and 1 million for the target study. Where do we get those numbers from, or where was it?
It's based upon previous studies. It's based upon things that have happened. The nature of it is that, and what we do is that once we develop out the scope, because we have not created a scope of what exactly are we completely looking at, right? And so until we create a scope, our engineers cannot put a cost estimate based upon that.
And my question is.
So these are very broad level. These are based upon past studies
What past studies? Do you have like?
from within the state.
From what other?
Within the state of Texas. So I would be hard pressed to tell you, this one came from Denton. This one came from Dallas. There are studies out there. Mr. Chavez can probably help me with this one a little bit.
Mayor, if I may, yes, so we have similar studies that we've done for Manadas and Zacate Creek. And so based off some of that information and some of that data that we already have on those recent studies as of last year, that's where the numbers
But do you have the amount of that, the cost of those studies?
Yes, we do.
Do you have them with you right now?
It's $800,000 that we paid for a study to study both Manadas and Zacate Creek watersheds.
So it's like 400 and 400.
Basically, right. This is a larger scope, in my opinion.
Well, and do those actually change the LOMARs and everything as well too, or is this just studying to that broader level?
They do not, and then those are the next steps.
Yeah, we would have to take it even deeper than that in order to get to what I'm recommending.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Matt, do we have an interlocal agreement with the other entities around our community for these initiatives? Like, we brought up LC, we have Webb County, our other government
We
entities.
don't have an interlocal to that level. I think the closest that we have with Webb County is, of course, the structure that we've had previously done, where we work in partnership with different things. At best, I would argue that because we're very specific on this one, we have broad level relationships with all these other governmental entities, and not necessarily to that level of, I think, where you're headed.
I think that it would be wise for us to create an interlocal agreement on this particular issue, and whatever studies or initiatives that we undertake that are gonna benefit the entire community, that we all band together in these initiatives, instead of us taking care of it by ourselves, and then LC kind of left to their self, and then Webb County kind of dealing with it on their own. I think this is a time that we all need to come together.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? No?
Yes, Mayor. Oh,
Yes, go ahead. Councilwoman.
apologies. Thank you so much. Well, first, I continue to share the concern. I understand, Mr. Neb, what you're saying about the studies, but relying on the right of entry to allow for technical data to be collected and then not having an ability to ensure that that data will be collected and then turned over to the city so that we can use it in our own calculations about what the impacts would be on our riverside is very concerning. We know that there was an agreement to allow the wall to be built under Columbia with the stipulation that that section not interfere with the bridge plans. And early indications seem to indicate that now we're going to have to figure out how to remove it for that bridge to be built as is intended. And so it is an example of how it's not, if it's not clearly understood what we're requesting, then perhaps the technical data that we need is going to get subsumed by this effort to build infrastructure. And well, according to the law, they don't have to weigh these really important considerations for our city. And that is why I think that we need to continue to develop our own studies, to look at the flooding that we could experience, to undertake these studies. Now, if that means going to FEMA and getting on the FEMA list so that we can do this and then get reimbursed, then with all haste, we should do it. But there also needs to be an effort to ask CBP to wait until we have this incredibly important technical data about what the flooding risks will be to our city before we allow the construction to begin. Because what you have presented or what you understand, I think, from these negotiations is that CBP is ready to begin, even though we still have questions, even though we haven't received the information that we need to understand if flooding is not going to be worsened in our city. And that is incredibly concerning. I will say that I'm here in Washington, D.C., and Congressman Henry Cuellar, our congressman, held a hearing where he interviewed CBP, FEMA, and DHS. And his report, one, he did submit the Tompkins report because currently it is the only study that exists of the Rio Grande in our area. He did submit that to the congressional record, and he did press CBP commissioners to evaluate it and please to provide data to the city. And I think we have an avenue as a council to have our questions, or even the engineering department, to develop these questions, and he will be able to submit them to the commissioners so that we can deal with the decision makers and get the data that we need, or insist that they take the time to do the proper studies. You know, this flooding risk will be dramatic. We've seen the floods. You showed what that flood water, how high it rises. And what the Tompkins report told us is that water increases in velocity underneath where we can't see it as it rises. And the wall will make the space that the water can spread more narrow. And that increases pressure and it increases velocity, and the risks of flooding become that much more dramatic. So I just think that we need to take the course, find the information that we need, insist on it before we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Neb, I think did we them to agree to hold off on the wall around the expansion of the bridge projects already?
Yes, sir. Mayor, yeah, on City Council, we had a conversation directly with the World Trade Bridge, and everything that we keep hearing, again, we want to get more definitive as well too, is that they do not intend to conflict with our expansion. They want to work in partnership with that. Our goal still right now is to look for an alternative type structure rather than just the standardized structure. But it is our understanding, based upon what we've heard all the way up to Commissioner Scott, they do not want to interfere with the expansion of our bridge for that. With what Councilmember Figueroa said with the Columbia Bridge as well too, we actually believe that the state or the feds will provide the funding, or they will remove anything that is in conflict with our expansion of that bridge. Again, those conversations are preliminary; they're not complete yet. But if it helps to at least provide, so everybody has a good understanding of what conversations we're having.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
All right, yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to create an interlocal agreement with the Laredo College and the county, in an effort of unity so that we can all work together to address these border security issues, with the understanding that we are going to negotiate with the federal government on these issues.
Motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
Mayor?
Yes.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, my question is that we see that we have conversations and we always have conversations, we're going back and forth, that you're having a conversation. Is there any way, or is there any person, a representative from the federal government that could come to our meeting and just say, we are working in good faith? We are gonna, see that conversation. We're working in good faith. We're not saying they're gonna guarantee us anything, but at least we're putting a face to somebody that, we're hearing somebody from the federal government coming in down here, put it in public record, saying, hey, we are trying to work with the city of Laredo. We're not trying just to come in and enforce ourselves and take over whatever we want to take over. Is there any possibility that we can do that, or that we can request that?
Council member, it can be requested, but be aware that the challenge we have because of the bureaucracy of the federal government, most of the people that we were talking to, the boots on the ground and everything, some of these people that are making the preliminary decision, they are not given the blessing to come and publicly speak. And that'll be the challenge we have with having our legislative body talk with some of these individuals, is that they're not allowed to put.
Oh, is there any way we can get a letter from them?
Yes, but I will pass the request on, and my request and the mayor's request actually has been, can you put this in writing that this is what it means? I mean, because you get tired of hearing, and that's what I'm hearing, the council members. You're getting tired of listening to me.
The thing is, I understand.
But no, it is to back that data up.
Yes.
It is to back that information up, because again, I want that definitive, at least something we can lean on and say, all right, we now understand. We can now at least hold somebody's.
Yeah, the thing is that we're trying to tell them that we're working on this, and we're gonna put projects on this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do the studies. But at the same time, well, that's your word. We haven't heard from them. But having somebody or having a document saying this is what's going to happen, or we're trying to figure out what's the best plan. I think it's okay. Now we understand that they are listening to us. There are, everything that we're tell to the public or the community, that we are working for them, right? So.
No, I agree with you. And if we can get that done, I'd be happy to get there. I guess my responsibilities within the charter, of course, is to help negotiate for you as well too. You guys have the ultimate authority as to whether or not that negotiation or that recommendation is good. So I think we got a good balance. I think the challenge we have with trying to get the federal government to come in here and stand in a public meeting, we've not been very successful with those, because they're not allowed to speak for. Yeah.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman.
would it help for us to put a resolution together with the official city position? I know we've sent them before, but we did create that study and we did have those results where more than half of the community was against the border wall. I think just to solidify the understanding of where we're coming from, because we know what they're trying to do, but we understand that we're trying to advocate for the position of the community. And we're trying to come to an agreement, and we need the public to understand that we are trying to work with that in mind, and not that we're just trying to,
Councilmember, and I like that, because the same way goes the other way, right? I mean, because we're sitting at the table and we're talking as well too. Anything that I can have definitive from our group here, we are talking about that. Mayor does a great job of that in the conversations to share where the council stands and all of that. I think any of that documentation would help. So a resolution or any of that stuff as a body does help within these conversations.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to create a resolution just to solidify our stance and the fact that we are working and request one back from them that this is a two-way process.
We can put that together.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor, can I ask just one question? One of the things that I did notice on this, on your presentation, is there is no timeline as to when the next meetings are gonna be, what those discussions are gonna look like. And because I'm kind of worried about the ROEC, and I'm not sure that if we're gonna come back next month and we're gonna say, okay, we've approved an ROEC for them, for our property, and we don't have any details as to, but you're saying that they need that so that they can come up with their specifications?
So the good or bad about this as well too is that, as I have stated to them, I don't make a decision. All I am doing is sharing what the thing is. They could go ahead and bypass and come right directly to you and provide, this is what we want.
Okay.
They're willing to negotiate within that, and they're willing to make those adjustments within that structure, and that's what that's why there is no direct timeline, because we are still trying to find out exactly what they're willing to discuss and willing to negotiate. And right now, they have not closed the door on anything that, whether Mayor's brought it up or whether I brought it up or whether we've had those conversations. I mean, those alternative structures and everything.
Yeah, my concern is that they can come in.
We do know, and I think, Councilmember, I think one of the things I will probably to press upon that as well too, we do know that we have actually received only 2 letters from the federal government on the right of entry in the first place. I have heard that we have property owners out there that have received their 4th one. And this is where the sense of urgency comes into this thing, because my concern with the federal administration that we have right now, and this being such a very important issue for them to resolve, I don't know when somebody's going to just say, enough's enough, we're not getting anywhere within those conversations. I believe that what we're hearing from our side is that we're having a great conversation going forward at trying to find the alternatives for that. But my fear is that they may go ahead and just say, we're going to go ahead and provide eminent domain condemnation on the property. And we're trying to make sure that the city's insulated from that as well too.
So the idea then for me is that, it's kind of, they're in a lull right now. And the conversations are going slow and slow and slow. And then once they pick up the pace on this thing, they're gonna come in and they're just gonna take off and it catches asleep basically in a lot of these things. So right now they're going slow, and then all of a sudden, once they get that right of entry first time, my fear is that they're just gonna take off and not give us any sense of direction as to what they're gonna do. They're just gonna go.
And I do disagree a little bit with Councilmember Cigarroas and exactly what you said there on the right of entry. The right of entry is not one thing. The right of entry is about 15 different things within that, from the start of a boundary survey, going on and checking to make sure that the boundary matches what the parcel says it will match, all the way, the geotechnical, the borings in that, all the way up to the proper use of that, all the way up to the construction. It's more nuanced than if we allow or don't allow right of entry. They're on our property today. I mean, because we have an agreement with them crossing that property. I mean, they're on everybody's property for that purpose today. What we are trying to do is manage what the nature of that is. And they have very specific requirements that they have to walk through. So we're not talking about giving up any ground. We're not talking about giving any final resolution. And that's what I tried to share in that report as well too, is that it is not, that's not the end result of that. What the danger is that within eminent domain and condemnation is that they could do it first and then worry about what's under the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess these questions come from, Rise because of there's a certain lack of trust in there that the people out there are not really trustworthy of what they want to do because, some of it because of lack of information and some of it is because we don't know what they're doing at this particular moment. Are they working behind the scenes to create an action plan that's just gonna bypass everything and to just move forward? So from my point of view, I want the city to be available and ready just in case anything like that happens, that we can either have an alternative to put a stop to it or to figure out a way that slow them down.
Councilmember, and I will answer that very quickly. Yes, we are prepared. Within our hiring of Jackson Walker, and again, we're not going to get too much into the strategy out in a public conversation, but we are prepared for whatever level of the conversation is. And I think I want to make sure you understand that because, and I'll drive it home a little bit because we don't talk about some of this stuff outside of that. Yes, they are working very diligently on their side. I'm assuming that they're having meetings every week on how they're going to implement this model. If they're not, shame on them. I think some of the stuff that works to our favor, though, is that with the disruptions that we've had within the funding on the federal side, that actually works to our advantage a little bit. It kind of gives a little hiccup within the conversations, but most of the funding that they are utilizing is out of the big, beautiful bill, and that means that the people that are already working on that, the consultants and everything, they're meeting on a regular basis. And again, I can't fix the entire trust issue. There's just no way to do that. I mean, we're the government, we're here to help is all I can think about, right? And, but it's like, we actually believe they have been honest with us in their intent, which is a nice thing to do. We may not agree with that intent, but they've been honest in that intent. And if we don't ask the right questions, we won't get the answers that we're hoping to see, because if we're told no, we're done negotiating, we're going to go this route, that's going to set us into a different direction. We're going to go down that path and do what we believe is necessary in order to protect our community.
Mayor.
Right now, we're not hearing that.
Yeah, go ahead. Can we get students' comments back up here because they've been waiting for over an hour and a half? I think they were in the presentation.
Okay.
See what they have to say, please.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you,
all
Mr.
sit down.
Allen. Thank you. We'll proceed with citizen comments. Manuel Ramirez on item number 1.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor. My name is Manuel Ramirez. So that's a lot of really concerning information that Mr. Neeb provided here. The idea that we need to, and I understand, but I think that's more of an argument that we need to do the work first and then get the data, right? Tompkins' report, although it can be argued to be assumption, I think there's still a lot of truth within that report that we can use to defend ourselves, because at the same time, it's not like the federal government has provided anything substantial to say otherwise. I mean, first point here, we don't even have an updated map. So how can we even trust that they are taking the best interests of this community when something as simple as a map hasn't even been provided to the council? I think this proposal is mostly half-baked at this point. I think Mr. Neeb gave more thought to this presentation that the federal government has given to anybody in the public, and that does affect that aspect of trust. Because in my perspective, ROE is approval, regardless of whatever they say. And it's like an imminent threat to the community that should be at least halted to the best of our abilities. Because I recognize that, you know, there's only certain things you guys can do, right? City government, federal government, whatever. I understand that, but if you truly want to stand with the people, then we should make it very well known at the local level that this is something that we absolutely oppose, because we're not getting a fair assessment here. It's like, hey, let's do it first, and then we'll figure out whether this works or not. Damage has already been done. That's primarily my concern, and we already have these similar structures throughout the country where it may be beneficial to look there to find the information we need to legally support some of the things that Tompkins writes in his report. Because I don't think it's fair to say that it's all assumption and that we can't use it, because again, the federal government hasn't provided anything substantial to the public that says, oh, this wall isn't going to do anything. And another thing.
Mayor, 3 minutes, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Next is Margarita Araize.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council.
Afternoon.
I would like to ask Mr. De Anda to speak for me.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Ricardo De Anda. I'm appearing before you as a representative of the Rio Grande Landowners Association. That's how I'm appearing before you, but I'd like to speak to you as a member of the Riverfront Advisory Committee as well. We've recommended to you that you commission a hydrology or geomorphology study or whatever is necessary for you to find out what the effect of the walls and buoys will have on the city of Laredo. Because the information that we have, the studies that we've conducted, show that it would have devastating consequences that would cause the structures that the city managers told you is in the floodplain, it would cause them to be in the floodway and actually float down the river because of the stronger current that would be caused by the walls and the buoys, according to Dr. Tompkins. Now, you all can either look at that report and say, oh my God, maybe he's right, or you can say, no big deal, nothing to look at here. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We suggest that the important thing for you to do as stewards of our safety, because that is your ultimate duty, is to take that report seriously and to conduct your own studies. I can't imagine that the Landowners Association commissioned this study, paid for it. We paid $15,000 for that study. I can't imagine that it would run 6 figures, let alone $1 million. Besides, the question as to how long it'll take, the question as to whether there's sufficient data, the question as to how much will it cost, is a question best answered by a professional, not by an administrator. That's not me saying that. That's Sister Rosemary Welch, who's also on the advisory committee, saying that to Mr. Neeb and to yourselves, saying hire someone, and if that person who's an expert tells you there isn't sufficient data, then you can bank on it. Otherwise not. Tocayos, I'll tell you what an ROEC means, and I can't imagine that the city manager would bring that to you. An ROEC means that they pay you $5,000 to build a wall, they have 36 months to build a wall, and the only thing you get back is a promise that they will sue you if you can't negotiate a settlement. Well, what if they ignore you? That's bad faith. What if they ignore you? Then you don't get paid for the money that they've taken, even though they've built that wall, unless you sue them in the Court of Claims in Washington, D.C. I can't imagine that would come before you, but that's the bad faith that you're dealing with here. Now, what does border security look like? The city manager asked you that. I'll tell you what it looks like.
Okay.
Could I speak?
Wrap it up, please. Go.
Could I speak under my 3 minutes?
We can't share minutes. She can speak for her minutes, but you can't share minutes. But go ahead and wrap it up. I'll allow it.
So I'll tell you what border security looks like. It looks like cameras, it looks like sensors, it looks like blimps, it looks like towers, it looks like boots on the ground. It doesn't necessarily look like walls and buoys. City manager hasn't told you they've closed the door on that. Why don't we ask for that? More importantly, why would they do that? Well, because your report shows that people would die otherwise, that the city would get flooded otherwise. Now, the federal government says not to worry. We have a treaty with CELA that says we can't allow anything to deviate the river more than 5%. Well, guess what? CELA's not gotten a bit of information as to what they have planned, Border Patrol has planned for these walls and buoys. In fact, they have protested to the State Department by the fact that they do not have the information that is required under the 1944 Water Treaty. The committee also interviewed your bridge engineers. Your bridge engineers have gotten approval from IBWC. They've not gotten approval from CELA. And maybe the Trump administration will bully its way and run over CELA and force them to sign off on your bridge, but maybe not. They've not gone before CELA. The U.S. government can build the structures because it's on, as your lawyer says, U.S. land. But you can't build your bridge unless Mexico agrees to it because it's on Mexican land. You don't have CELA approval. The more I look into this, the more I peel this onion, the more issues that I find as a member of this committee. We found out that the city of Laredo is in danger if these walls and buoys are constructed. We found out that there's an issue with whether you may get approval from CELA. CELA has protested the fact that, as Mr. Tompkins found out, CELA has said, the walls and the buoys will flood Nuevo Laredo. We protest. That's what CELA said. Maybe Trump will pull his bully.
Mayor.
Thank you. Well, one last thing. It's okay for you guys to sit down and negotiate, but don't sign anything. You can't trust them. You don't want to sign something and then find out that it'll flood Laredo. Find out the hard way that it floods Laredo. Find out that in your district there's flooding because you signed off on something, even though you had the Tompkins report waving a red flag. Thank you.
Mayor.
No, Mayor, I was just gonna say that I think with the committee, I don't know if it's appropriate to report on the committee reports. I think there's a practice there we should get a report from the committee on what they've discussed and be presented to us, because I think only the committee chair can present to us what the committee is found or discussed. Just as a point of
I
order.
would suggest that going through the chair for that.
Mayor, Mr. Aranda had also signed up for making comments, so this will be his, those were his 3 minutes. Yes, Mayor. Okay. Mayor, there's 2 more comments. We have Karen Munoz.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Karen Munoz. I live in District 8. First, I don't think it's irrational for any of us to be skeptical about the federal government and their actions or what they may be. You all have talked about the lack of trust. We've seen them break the law. We've seen them disobey court orders. We've seen them send people to a country that they've never been to a dangerous prison after they deported them illegally. And we see them do these actions, weekly. So I just want to speak to kind of the distrust that you all are talking about, right? I don't envy the position that you all are in. It often feels like the federal government, again, maybe we give them a limited right of entry. We don't have a reason to trust that that's going to remain limited. Again, the federal courts will say, hey, you can't deport people. They say, okay, we're just going to deport them at 2 a.m. when no one knows. Labor Day weekend, right? So just think it's really important to know that that's the context that we're speaking in. And I trust that you all keep that in mind whenever you all make these decisions. So we, again, urge you to do everything that you can, everything in your power to ensure that the health and safety of this community is protected. Again, I understand that the federal government has put you in this very difficult position. I don't envy your position. Like I said, it feels like the federal government is often fighting us. It often feels that way with the state government too. Earlier maybe last week, the city of Houston passed a policing ordinance and Governor Abbott on Twitter said, hey, we're gonna take your funding, right? It feels like our hands are tied. It feels like you all's hands are tied. It feels like no one is fighting for us. And that's why we come here in the middle of the day the 8 of us who could make it, come here in the middle of the day to say, please fight, please do not sign anything. I agree. Yes, in good faith, know who you're negotiating with, know that they are likely, maybe, again, we hope that they are negotiating in good faith, but we understand history, we understand what they are doing weekly. And don't sign anything until you have trust, and is that going to come? Until you have trust that they are actually negotiating in good faith here, and I don't think you have that. I don't believe that you need to give the government the right of entry onto property to conduct these studies. Again, Dr. Tompkins has already released some. There are other border communities who already have buoys similar to the kind that, have been discussed here. So we need to just use all of that context. We don't need to sign anything at this point when the federal government has given us no information. I would be remiss to say, I know this is the middle of the day again. I was here maybe 3 weeks ago when there was an hour and a half of public testimony. So it feels a little difficult I didn't even have time to write comments today because we had to be here in the middle of the day, right? So we all know that many more people would be here in the evening if this meeting was in the evening. It's unfortunate that my representative is not here, though I'm happy she's in DC advocating for the same. So again, we urge you to not sign anything and just know who you're dealing with. The distrust is not coming from nowhere, and we are here in good faith too. Thank you.
Next comment is Aki Pinochet.
Mayor, City Council members, and my fellow citizens of Laredo, I bid you a good afternoon. My name is Saidi Racheta Montalvo. I'm a resident of District 4 and a proud member of the Laredo Democratic Socialists of America. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here, and I'm here concerning the construction of the border wall along that stretch of the Rio Bravo. Now, I'm not here to take up much time when it comes to the environmental risk of this proposed border wall. Much has already been said by Dr. Mark Tompkins' report, which you heard this Tuesday. No, what I'm here to address is what many people in Laredo have already been feeling. We do not want this border wall. We pride ourselves here in Laredo for being the safest city in Texas, and yet here we are being fed this dribble that we need this border wall to keep our community safe. And I'm here to ask City Council to not cooperate with the Trump administration for the construction of the border wall. Laredo City Council must stand with its people against this border wall. You must hold the line. We cannot cooperate and offer a helping hand to a tyrant and his goons who threaten our immigrant communities here in this city. Mass thugs who have shown that they will use the instruments of the state to commit violence against its very citizens. We need transparency from you on what the federal government is asking from us. We cannot have a patron system again where only backroom dealings are being had between the federal government and some people here in City Council. We can't keep wasting money. We could be better using this money spent on the wall to offer better services to the people of Laredo or build infrastructure that will meaningfully impact their lives. This current presidential administration is trying to intimidate our city into following its agenda. Let it be known, if Laredo gives even an inch, the government will take a mile, and we must not allow that. When you took office, you did so understanding that you were in charge of representing and defending the entire city of Laredo. And I'm sure that you understand the responsibility that office entails. After all, was it not that in 2024, you voted to give yourselves a raise because you believe there should be fair compensation for your work? In fact, 4 of those city council members who voted to approve this are sitting here right now. Gilbert Gonzalez of District 1, Ricardo Raquel of District 2, Ruben Gutierrez of District 5, and Vanessa Perez of District 7. To you 4, if you truly believe in the value of your hard work as city council members, then you must stand with the people of Laredo at this crucial moment, when the full weight of the responsibility is on your shoulders. You could, for example, join your fellow city council members in DC to advocate for us instead of twiddling our thumbs while we wait for the government info. For a government who our city manager admitted is wanting to fast track this process. Do we trust them to conduct the study with care and rigor we really need? I would also like to address my representative, Rick Garza of District 4, and implore you to speak with your colleagues and dissuade them from working with ICE and the Trump administration. Listen to the voice of your constituents. And here we stand now, at the crossroads of history. The decisions you make now will echo for the decades to come, and this will be your legacy, not your achievements. This decision and the people of Laredo will not let you forget about this should you decide to cower and bend the knee towards this authoritarian regime. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Those are all the comments, Mayor.
Now, all the comments, okay? We proceed with the executive session, unless we have anything else. All right?
Motion for executive session.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Mayor.
Yes, who is it?
Hi, this is Anissa Cigarroa. I just wanted to thank all of those that spoke for public comment, and we're here listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Executive session, thank you. All right. Back to the executive meeting. No agreements were made. We'll proceed with, we have quorum?
Yes.
Yes.
Number two.
Number 2, item number 2.
Presentation.
All right. Mayor, I don't think we're going to get through this one as far as we want, and because we took the amount of time that was necessary to have the border wall conversation. So if you'll at least allow me to lay this out, we'll continue this conversation on this, but I do want to lay out exactly what we've been working on, where we're going, because short of the frustrations that each of you feel with how our meetings operate and everything else, we actually have some state responsibilities that we have to adjust for, and I think one of the conversations was even how the Zoom meetings are utilized and how they work within the system. So I just wanted to walk through, and I'll just set the table for lack of a better way. The intent for this conversation was to walk through the current agenda and highlight what was working well, identify those areas of improvement, discuss the best practice from the other city, and then gather council input. So we weren't really seeking a lot of I was hoping for the dialogue with you guys, but I believe that based upon that other important item and topic that we had, I'm just going to lay out some of this stuff in there. The data that I will send you from this point forward as well too is that we want to preserve the council policy-making authority. I think that's the big thing, that within the charter, within all of our rules, we want to make sure that, because these meetings, these business meetings are your meetings. These are the ones that are meant to provide for how we move the city forward. And so, and of course, the nature of the staff makes it easier when we understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish and where we're going. So we want to maintain transparency and public access. We want to improve the clarity and flow. We want to support the informed decision-making and build on existing strengths. I'm assuming that I'm not going to hear anybody up there say anything different, but these are the guiding principles of how we want to operate our meetings. Our current agenda structure is that we do have an established and adopted structure. I would say that over time in our priority procedures manual, we actually have the agenda written in there. We don't really follow that are adopted. We've adjusted as time has went. And that is only for the standardization of the system, because all it takes is a vote of the council when you get here. And we see that as we move things around, because we're trying to be respectful of people's time and when people come to see us in the evenings. And so we do try to follow a standard structure. I think the frustration is that we find certain items take a little bit longer than what we have to get to. This is essentially our current agenda structure, and I know that you have a copy of a handout as well too. This is essentially as to how we walk through when we place everything in there. Some of the categories that we have here are actually locally, independently adopted from how we do our business. We can actually combine certain things, and we can kind of move things around a little bit. There are some things that we're going to have to adjust just because of the way the laws have changed with Open Meetings Act and everything else. So it breaks it down there. The document that you do have, we broke it down into essentially different categories of the meeting as well too. And so we have the opening items, we have some of the work that's in the middle, and then we have this stuff that's at the end. What I would ask for you to do is that be considering how we walk through these things. The opening items, I'm assuming most of them, they're very consistent. The call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, the moment of silence, all of those things down through that first part of that opening items. I don't see a lot of challenges within how we operate that. That's setting the table in order to get to our business.
Right. When you in a while, I'd like to put some of my thoughts. Just go ahead and resume everything.
Yeah. The next section, of course, is into those communications and recognitions. And what we do is that it shows the strong community engagement within our recognitions and communications. I think that, and we heard that from some of the ones that were here to speak this morning or this afternoon as well too, is that they want to hear from you. They want to know what you're thinking. They want to know how things go. We just don't have a lot of time because we've got so much work that we're trying to accomplish within that. But all of those communications recognitions do extend the time of the meeting. So I think if you can find a method of how to do that, that would help. And then there is, the appropriate structure and timing of that is what's important, I think, and trying to walk through that. The next item there is public comment. I will state, and we've been discussing this and debating this through legal, administration, and everything else, is that agenda item comments are in the Opening Meetings Act as well too, is that we have to allow public comment on any item that is on the agenda. We do not have to allow for general comment. It can and cannot be. It is recommended that we do have general comment because that may be the only interaction that somebody could have. The challenge we have is that if it's not in a controlled fashion, we could be talking about the price of wheat in China if we're not careful. That's what the general comments, it could be anybody, not necessarily from even inside of Laredo. It could be anybody coming up and saying, I want a little bit of time. And I think at times we have seen that utilized to a negative side of that because we appreciate what our people are saying and we want to make sure we understand that. So when we talk about public comment, I think the balance of the access and the efficiencies of those are going to be the most important piece on that public comment. The appointments, I think that moves really well, making sure that the appointments go through there. There's clear council authority, straightforward process, minimal challenges. The public hearings, we actually have a lot of internal stuff that we do with the public hearings. We don't necessarily have to read them verbatim to enter them into the record. We can do them by title. We can do them a lot of different ways. I'm sorry, Mr. Rodriguez. I know that we'll find him something else to do. All right. But it does. The public hearings. We're just supposed to put it on the table. I think we found a very creative way of the for and against as we come out of that and moves it that way. But it interrupts the flow as we walk through those. We can manage those in a couple different ways, but we don't have to set them on the table the way they have been set before. And that'll save us a little bit of time when we have 15 to 20 of them and long dissertations within each one of them. But we will provide that recommendation to you. As we get into the ordinances, this is where we actually see within the ordinance, and we see it a little bit in the public hearings as well too. But and you're going to hear this a couple different times today. Sometimes first time discussion occurs, that little green box there. When we do first time discussions, they go longer. The topic goes a lot longer within those conversations. If you're not aware of why it's there and how it's there, then that's where all the questions come about, and then that's why some of these items take longer to cover for that. The ordinances have to be laid out there a certain way, and that's why we always talk about with the first reading of those ordinances, there's really no action that has to happen other than we have to get it on the table so it can be discussed. And I guess in our opinion is that those should go without a lot of conversation. If you have a question after it's been laid on the table, then please come and talk, because we'll normally have 2 to 3 different times, chances to tackle that one. The discussion with that is that if we can get some earlier engagement opportunities, that'll help with that. The consent agenda actually operates pretty well, other than I think the concerns that I have heard from some of you is that you're not even aware why the consent agenda item is on from a departmental level. One of the things that we are talking about doing is that, and this is at a later slide, is that within our agenda process, consent agenda items are actually supposed to be resolutions and motions. There's 2 different sections. We break them down by department, which creates this other little beast within the structure. And so I think that's where you're using the consent agenda correctly, where if you don't agree that it is full consent, then that item has to be pulled off and it gets discussed. That's the way it's supposed to work. But I think there's ways that we can kind of strengthen that out and actually follow a little bit closer to our model. Staff reports, they do provide important information, but they do, a lot of times they become first-time discussion items, which draws it out even farther from what they are. If we can find a different way of handling some of these staff reports, I think sometimes we utilize them very well, and then other times they get to be a lot of noise and clutter, because I want to keep you guys focused on the work that you have to get done. Executive sessions, legally required to handle sensitive matters, no structural concerns with that. I think unless you have anything specific that you want to talk about with those, we can walk through those as well too. But the general counsel discussions, this is the most flexible discussion space we have, and at times the conversations are unstructured, because these items come onto the table, and then it is actually, and I go back to one thing that Councilmember Perez said at one point in time. This is actually your first blush at some of these items. But what we try to do is we try to put the discussion and the decision all on top of everything, and sometimes you want time to consider what's being requested. And I think we can actually change that model just a little bit and try to structure it a little bit further, where you want the ability, and I talked about that earlier, having the ability to put it on there because this is your meeting, but then finding a way that you can kind of walk through that. There are some best practices out there. I know San Antonio runs them through a committee system or a briefing meeting. Essentially, they go to a briefing meeting before they go to the business meeting. I don't know if we need to get to that level. San Antonio is 5 times larger than us, but that'd be an area. The key observation items often introduced, discussed, and decided, all within the same meeting. I think if there are certain things that we can slow down, lay them on the table, have a general discussion on that, give a direction saying, please bring that report back, or please bring that information back, which we do on a lot of different things. I think the difficulty is that we're trying to take care of all of that business at one meeting, and that's what makes it, that's what draws it out when we're trying to make the sausage at the same time as we're trying to discuss what sausage we're going to make. The resulting challenges in that is that we do have longer meetings. We have limited preparation time for that, because depending on how long we have, if it's a general report, we can do that. I think I provided a document last year or a year and a half ago that said, when you put your directives on there, give me 30 days for this type. If it's a staff report, I'll get you the information back. If you're going to need an ordinance revision, then I'm going to go back, and it'll take maybe 60 days and a 90-day window. The thing is, we don't want to leave any of those directives out there standing, because we want to get that work off the plate, because it was important enough for you guys in order to have the conversation and actually provide that directive. The best practices that we heard, we went through ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. We looked at San Antonio, we looked at Austin, we looked at Corpus Christi, we looked at McAllen, we looked at a lot of different ones. And the best practices that we have found in most of these, and some of them do the same work, very similar to us as well too, but separate the discussion from the decision. And I think if we can get that to happen, then you're going to see at least it moves a lot smoother with that, where we don't feel complicating it with with decisions before the discussion is ended, because you guys do a great job of this, but I like to think about things for a little while, a little longer than normal. because I want to make sure that it's the best possible decision, because there's a cause and effect with every decision that we make. Use briefings and workshops. We do have the ability already built into our protocols and our priorities to utilize briefings. They're not formally done, they're informal, but they have the ability there. We are utilizing workshops a lot more now to try to cover these important things. That's why we're here today. Preparing the items before the action, I think understanding exactly why they're there so that we can have a good discussion and then a final decision. And then the use of the committees, I don't think there's anything wrong informally or formally utilizing committees to a certain source. When they're big, it's essentially another type of workshop or a special session. And I think those are where these complex topics can actually be part of that conversation as well too. But the core concept within those best practices is have the discussion first, then determine what that decision is, and then that improves the clarity without eliminating that authority. Everything gets laid on the table. We talk about everything. There's nothing that is taboo or it can't be talked about. It's just where we talk about it and how we talk about it. And so where this can help in is that the consent agenda confidence. I think having 2 or 3 items off that consent agenda, I don't consider that a bad thing. I think those are the ones that have to be there. The staff report efficiency, making sure, because I think that's a very difficult thing to take up a lot of time and at least talk about exactly what we're trying to accomplish unless it has a clear direction for that council. Clear council discussions and improved meeting flow should happen within trying to have the discussions separate from the decisions. What it does not do, these are slides that I keep adding to because I want to make sure everybody understands it does not limit your authority. It actually just changes how we actually walk through it. It does not prevent items from going on there. It does not change the charter. It does not remove the flexibility. You guys still maintain all of that within the structure of your meetings. And but what we're recommending a little bit for consideration is that if you can separate discussion and decisions out, we have earlier engagement, we have better preparation, we have clearer discussions and more effective meetings as to how we walk through these things. Some of the agenda layout refinements that I wanted to lay out there, because these are ones that have come up, because I think one was about the Zoom meetings. I know there's been a lot of conversation on how those Zoom meetings, how participating by Zoom should happen and everything, and we've talked about that. So we need to have a longer conversation about that because during COVID, life was a little bit different. Everybody was a little more lax in how we would allow the communication because we wanted to keep everybody safe as we were trying to do our work. But as we got farther away from COVID, we were trying to get back to that more traditional system. But all those influences remain out there, the Zoom conversations and everything else. The public hearings and ordinances, evaluating the form of the introductory to the finals, consider streamlining the reading requirements where allowable. The final ordinances, one of the recommendations that came out of a training that Karen actually had attended on agendas within the state was the potential to include final readings within the consent agenda. By the time it gets to a final reading, just put it on the consent agenda. It does not need to come up separately on its own. We just place it in the consent agenda. If somebody has an issue, they pull it off, just like we do with any consent agenda items. The appointments, consider handling as announcements when appropriate. Just do it all at that same block of time. I think it works fairly well. It'll save a little bit of time. The consent agenda structure, organized by resolutions and motions rather than department. As I was walking through that one, I think the challenge is making sure that we understand where that consent agenda item came from, because that's where we'll have those conversations. I don't think it changes when we pull them off. We have the director here in order to cover that item. And then there is a requirement that we have to include budget language on our agendas as well too. This is effective as of September of this year. And so we're going to have to add some additional disclaimers essentially on the agenda based upon the open meetings law for where it's at. Hopefully we can get to the council discussion at some point. I'm happy to stay today, but if you guys want to think about this farther, because again, discussion first, decisions later, right? And what works well today, where are the challenges? What I'm hoping that document that I provided to you by breaking it up in those sections, we can actually eliminate some of those areas saying, no, those aren't the areas that we want to talk about, and we'll narrow down exactly where our challenges are within the agendas. Where can the improvements help, and what can we suggest? I actually have a best practice guideline where if we were to do a complete overhaul and we implemented a committee system, we implemented the formal briefing system, and that one felt like we shifted the model so far, where it's like, let's walk through these pieces a little bit slower and a little bit more identified in order to get there, because I think any adjustments that we do make within those conversations are going to help us. So what level of change? These are the 4 questions that I would hope that the council could consider and get in there. And then what we'll do from that point, and actually what we can do from today, if you go home and think about those 4 questions as well too, we can at least pull the feedback together. We can build out some more incremental type options where we kind of evolve this thing a little bit slower and a little bit more direct. And then we can return it for further discussion.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd rather just kind of get into it.
Okay,
because,
we're all
you know,
good.
I think we already got the point of
Yeah.
what we're doing.
So that was my last slide, I think, Mayor, so happy to start the
some
conversation.
motions to do before we leave. Because of this consideration that we want to improve the way we function here, the motions I thought about was to move council agenda items to the beginning of the meeting. This way we don't take till 11:30 or 12 midnight. Take citizen comments at each time of the agenda item is called. Schedule recognitions prior to the business meeting. And if included during the business meeting, limit them to not more than 2 per meeting, and I'll make an effort not to put a lot of recognition. Yeah, I'm in there too. And one more thing, add section covering video conference call in line with section 551.127 of the Texas Government Code, which I think you have a copy of there, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
It says some guidelines on how to participate on Zoom.
That is correct, and it's in the Texas Government Code, it's part of the Texas Open Meeting Act.
So to
Mayor,
include-
if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Just to kind of enhance your item on the council member items, I do think it would be prudent for us to possibly get 3 co-sponsors, a requirement of 3 co-sponsors for our items, just to ensure that, you know, there's some viability to the discussion and not just using it as.
And Mayor, and what Councilwoman Perez is talking about, San Antonio actually does that. They require co-sponsors within those topics in order to have them laid on there. And again, it's just to make sure that it's vetted out well enough in order to move it
Well,
forward.
the reason why I'm saying it, it's not that I want to limit our abilities at all. It's just that sometimes agenda items, they get used in ways that, are not productive for us as a policymaking, and it's more of a distraction. We are not able to get to some of the city business that we need to. You have landowners, you have business owners waiting on final approvals, they're going through the ordinance process, and we're tabling their items, and then we hear from the public that we're not efficient as far as business friendly, and I mean, we're not business friendly if we keep tabling city business.
Right. The other thing would be to come prepared. We all need to come prepared to avoid all these questions and education on what they're talking about. That takes an hour to get educated on what the item is. So to come a little bit prepared.
And also, Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, I don't like the suggestion of taking out the department consent agenda, like organization factor there. But I do agree that some of these consent agenda items it's not clear to us what they're tied to. We're approving a contract or we're approving an expenditure that we don't know what project it's tied to. If we're going to do any kind of modification, I think it should be on a project basis. For example, water pipe replacement project, these are the consent agenda items for that project. Like, clarify for us what the project is, or, you know, the district, whatever project, this is the approval for that. Because a lot of times we're asking, what is this about? And then, oh, it's this project. Well, it would be better if it was just clear for us so that we can go through our research that we need to do before the meetings. And items like, for example, the water, we had made a motion as a council to require staff updates for the water because we wanted the public to know that we were focused on that. Those were removed from the agenda. I think we need to keep our priorities consistent as far as staff reports. Even if it's just a 2-minute report, it'll eliminate us having to put an agenda item asking for updates because the public does want to know that we are prioritizing water specifically.
So I'd like to move on this agenda on what I mentioned, move council agenda items to the beginning of the meeting. This is gonna be one motion. Take citizens' comments at the time of each agenda item. Schedule recognitions prior to business meetings. If included during the business meeting, limit to no more than 2 per meeting. And add section covering video conference call in line with section 55(1.127) of the Texas Government Code. That is my motion.
Mayor, if you would Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a couple of concerns with that. Moving council agenda items to the beginning of the meeting, I think moves us from what this actually was supposed to be. This is supposed to be taking care of business, city business. So when the consent agenda comes up, that's important. When first, second, third readings of ordinances come up, that's important. Having them in the middle of the meeting, I think if you'd accept the amendment, Mayor, to put those prior to our
city business.
Right, city business before having our council agenda item before.
Yeah.
I think we should put that before we have our items. I think it's very similar to what it is now, except for moving those items, even further up ahead instead of having them as far back as they are now.
I'll accept that to a motion. Yes?
No, just a quick comment on the recognitions. I know most of us, staff and management, think that they take too long until we bring up a recognition and it's dear to us, right? Then that's when we say, well, I mean, they deserve to be recognized citywide. What does your outline say, Mayor? A business day prior?
Move city council agenda items to the beginning of the meeting.
No, the recognitions, Mayor.
Oh, recognitions, says schedule recognitions prior to the business meeting, like earlier than 5:30.
So would that be 5 p.m., Mayor?
5 p.m.
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable, because I've done some, when we started, Mayor, that we were doing some at 4:30, and, some of these recognitions, these speakers were talking to empty chairs and stuff, so I said 5 is great.
Yeah, Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Right, so this council voted on having them at 4:30, the recognitions. And we voted on that already. For some reason, it got out of whack and we started bringing them in during the business meeting.
We voted the other direction afterwards.
Right, after that. And that's something, I do agree with Councilmember Gonzalez or Mayor Pro Tem. When it's somebody that's calling us, hey, we need to recognize this team, because they did so, great in whether it be a federal, state competition, I think it's something extremely important for our city, right? Because our students are representing the city of Laredo at the end of the day. And it's extremely important to do so. I agree. I think 5 o'clock would be a good time to be doing that. That way people are able to get out of work and hopefully be here before the meeting.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, it's just, for me, it's I find it just kind of, not responsible. Like, for us not being responsible of our time. Like, if, I suggest my colleagues, like, I was the one that brought up that coming up at the 4:30, the starting off of the first of the month, that's where we're gonna do the recognitions. Every first of the month, all the recognitions, we're gonna do every first of the month at 5 o'clock. We veered off from that. The other one, I think we've been here for a while. I think we don't take responsibility on doing, if you know what your topic is, or your agenda is, or your item you have, you fight it to the point that, you argue it, or you discuss it to the point. But we gotta limit ourselves as well. I know every one of us up here, we're up here because we're passionate of what we do. And I know that we try to prove it to our colleagues that this is the way I want you to support this, and I know. But at the same time, we gotta police ourselves. Going through this and having the mayor, trying not to sanction us, but at the same time trying to, hey, stop it, time out, you guys are taking over the meetings. I think that's our responsibility as council And yes, shareholders, they say, hey, this is how far I'm gonna go, and this is how far we can do this. On doing recognitions, we know we get out of hand. We know that there's a lot of recognitions. At the same time, we see how the crowd gets. Everybody comes in, especially when it comes to, like, right now, the water, when it comes to the border wall. At the same time, we gotta tell, yes, we want you to come in and advocate, but let's keep in mind that we're in a building that, in case of there's an emergency, we gotta have a way out. Everybody has to have a way out. If there's an emergency, and just imagine having this room filled, which we have before, and nobody's ever said anything and say, hey, sir, we're over capacity. You know, we're over capacity. We can't let them in. So we can't, I mean, we're not trying to be mean. We're just trying to control it and say, hey, if there's an emergency, there's nothing we can't do. Everybody's going to be running around everywhere. So I think as shareholders up here, as council members, we got to understand and limit ourselves and put ourselves restraints. Say, this is important. If you can discuss it, say, hey, can I figure it out before I put the item? Make sure you already went through all the channels to put the item in the agenda. Now, if the recognitions, we can control that. I want to do the recognitions. You might want to do 2, might want to do 3. But at the same time, I think it's, for me to be up here to tell me, have Mr. Neb have a paperwork or have a presentation to how to perform ourselves or how to conduct ourselves, it's crazy.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, it's crazy. I think it's not, we're not being professionals, so we gotta start limiting ourselves, say, you know what, we understand, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna control this. But we gotta work as a council to make sure we're not doing this and bringing things up again and making things over and over. But Mayor, having a referee to tell us what to do, I think that's not professional. Go ahead.
Councilman Rangel, I'm glad you brought that up about the capacity of this room, because during the public safety meeting, which we have in 8 minutes, there's a presentation going to be spoken about that. So the marshal's going to be, or was spoken about, about that about a month ago, and he's bringing in recommendations of what he's going to do, because I asked him specifically to start enforcing that here in this building, because as you mentioned, if we do have an emergency, we're going to have a hard time getting out of here. And that's something that's going to be brought up, like I say, in the next 8-9 minutes, so because I'm going to need to leave to go to that. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. I mean, the answer is simple. We just follow Robert's rules.
Exactly.
We probably need a Robert's rules training for some, you know, maybe for all of us, but it's very clear. You know, you're not supposed to bring up items. You're not supposed to be redundant. Everything's supposed to flow efficiently. You can even limit the amount of time on a discussion on an item. You can limit the amount of time that each of us has to speak. I mean, some of my colleagues have clocked in, you know, 20% of the meeting in speaking time, you know, just asking questions and asking for clarification and asking for things that, you know, we have a week and a half of the agenda that we can use to go and ask questions. And at the same time, I do think that one of the practices that you have, Mr. Neb, with the staff is you have staff meetings where they have to present what they're going to present to us. I think we should be allowed to go to those meetings, and I understand that there's some reasons why you might not want us there, but if you're presenting content and facts on, you know, I need this pipe, it's going to cost this much for this project, I don't see why we can't go and use that as a fact-finding, information-finding resource, so that when that item gets to our desk, we already have a familiarity with it for those of us that need it. So I think staff meetings where these things are going to be discussed for us to vote on, that we should be able to go to those, and that would be on all of us to take that initiative. But we just need to follow Robert's rules. And if, you know, because I've had it before where I try to utilize Robert's rules and then it becomes an adversarial thing where, oh, you don't want me to speak or you're trying to limit me. It's not about limiting your freedom to speak or whatever. It's about controlling the meeting so that we can get business conducted, because we've gone way too many meetings where we don't finish the agenda, and it's unacceptable for the public.
Right. Yes, go ahead.
And, you know, we also have a city secretary there. He has time there, and if it's like, if we're going through discussion, more than 3 minutes, if there's a, you know, I think, Mayor, if you're, I think right now, Mayor, I respect your decision, your motion, but I think at the same time, I think we have a city secretary that has a timer, that can control the time. And if there's a speaker, that bill goes off, hey, sorry, thank you so much, next. And I think that we should just be a little bit more strict on what we're doing on when people are speaking up here or trying to have their public comment.
Yeah,
So-
we could do that, and I think, that's necessary to move everything along. But sometimes I give them a little time to finish up.
Of course, of course.
That would do it, but, yeah, we need to.
I think before we do all this, Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor, before we do a motion, or before, you did a motion, and I respect your motion, but before we do all this, I think we should start working on ourselves first, before we have something implemented on ourselves, and say, well, we're not gonna let you, I'm not gonna allow, where you need signatures, or you need this, or you need that. I think we should work on ourselves first, and then we can start looking into that, before we do that, but that's my opinion.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
All we're really working on is just moving the way the agenda is written out. So it's not really hindering us from doing anything in particular right now, just kind of moving agenda items around so we can put business before our stuff. And I think with the motion the mayor made and somebody seconded, right, and then mayor accepted the amendment, I think it's a good move. I think these are changes that I think are necessary, and we're putting business before our items, and I think that'll help us plenty, my opinion.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we repeat the motion? What was the motion with the amendment?
Okay, it's, move council agenda item to the beginning of the meeting. Take sitting comments at each agenda item when it's called. Schedule recognitions prior to the business meeting, and at 5 p.m., it was 5 p.m. that was added. If included during the business meeting, limit them to no more than 2 per meeting.
And then the amendment, Mayor, the amendment was to have the consent agenda and the readings to be before the council items.
Yes, that was the amendment. And one more thing, add section covering video conference call within the section 551.127 under Texas Government Code.
Mayor, I just want to make one point if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's difficult for the public to get here at 5, just because there's a lot of traffic issues to be here by 5. I think maybe a better solution would be just one meeting a month for recognitions. That way we get several of them maybe in 1 month. Well, I just don't know, because if we do it at 5, it's going to be hard for them to get out of work, do what they need to do, and get here through traffic. But we can keep it at 5. It's just, I just think that might be a little hard for them.
What I'm trying to do, that's what I'm saying, like that first of the month, we decided that last time there was a motion of the first of the month. That first of the month, you could bring 3, 4, 5, because unless it was a time-sensitive item that we needed or consent, then that's where we're gonna move it in the front. But other than that, you had Monday, the first of the month, we could put all your recognitions that you want. Let's say 4 or 5 recognitions, you can put them on the first of the month. They can start off at 5 and they can go all the way to 8 o'clock at night. So that's the decision we had before.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
and we did. The only thing is we found out that the first meeting of the month with recognitions was taking 3 hours off of the meeting.
But that was.
They stack up.
Mayor, if I may, but that was the point. So for the following meeting of the month, it would be just go for all business and city government. So.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Unfortunately, Mayor, 3 of us have to leave for the public safety meeting, so we won't have four anymore, so we need to take a vote, please.
So that's the motion. It's been second.
With the amendment?
With the amendment. With the amendment.
After P and Z and consent.
Correct, yeah, with the amendment. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor and council, on that item, just know that our agenda is approved by ordinance. And so what we'll do is legal will prepare the actual documents in order to walk through the adjustments that have just been motioned by the council.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll move around.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Great. Very good.